Where is it at? Oh, yeah. What's this one here? Okay, thank you. With that, moving forward, it will require a zone change process for the entitlements. Also, the conditional use permit process will be required for the adoption of a master plan. It will require a general plan process for the changes to our general plan. Also, the rezoning of the areas for the new zone changes. I'm gonna go ahead and share just a conceptual plan of the proposed uses. Again, this is conceptual. It's not the final plan, but it is conceptual at this time. With that, is there any other comments from other departments? As far as any comments for the circulation that's being proposed? With Javier Sanchez?
Yeah, one thing that Fire brought up, and it's also a question from engineering, is a second point of access on that east half, east of Newcomb. We did see the write-up on why the Prospect Street Bridge probably wouldn't be a good idea, which, we understand that, but would there be a way to get a second point of access out to Newcomb?
So, hi, this is Kelsey. Does the city, you're asking for a second point of access over the river from east of Newcomb? Because we're assuming that access will be limited on both of the state routes. I don't think that Caltrans will give us access there. So I think, and Matt or Bodie, please feel free to jump in. I think that to get access north or east of Newcomb, we would have to go over the river somewhere. And at that point, probably just keep the planned Prospect alignment. Any thoughts on that?
So I guess, is the concern the internal circulation or the circulation or access from outside of the project area?
The internal circulation, just that, say if there's only the proposed A Street connection and in an emergency it gets blocked, then there's no way out. Again, we understand the concerns if we'd connect to Prospect Street and send traffic in the commercial area up through a residential area, but would we be able to squeeze in a second road, either north or south of the proposed A Street?
Sure, yeah, so, and this doesn't show any local streets. This is just the arterials and collectors. So each development, as it develops, would be required to contribute to the internal circulation network with local streets. So there will be other streets connecting to proposed A Street and Newcomb Street. We're just not proposing another collector. But is that what the city wants? A second collector within the plan area?
Not necessarily, just another point of access, in the event of an emergency.
So I'm wondering if we could propose a local street that is mandatory, that can be shifted depending on development. I think that's something that can be doable, especially since we're doing a master plan. That's what I would recommend, that we show a local street, and we just include in the write-up that the exact location of the local street will be determined upon development, but that it has to go through from point A to point B. Would that satisfy your concerns?
Yeah, that would be helpful.
And would that one be, that mandatory local street be an east-west connection? Kind of running parallel to proposed street A?
Uh,
Or,
Correct, right. We wouldn't want it branched off of A Street. It'd be a direct connection to Newcomb in case one or the other gets blocked.
okay, got it.
Matt, do you have any thoughts on it?
No concerns. I think what you guys have proposed right now, works fine in terms of our idea of the circulation.
Is the city okay with not having vehicular access across Prospect? I know that's a kind of the major issue we want to discuss and address.
Let's see.
Maybe Oscar, if you can pull up the other, so this is like one of the circulation maps we had. Oscar, can you pull up the land use map that you had up before that has the land use and circulation? Yeah, that one. So this shows that would be no access, no vehicular access to Prospect.
Right, let's see.
We could still have local street access going north and then turning into a pedestrian bridge across the river if that's something the city wants, but according to our traffic engineer, that street on the north side of the river doesn't have the capacity to handle a lot of traffic going across it, so it could not be a major street.
Right. Yeah, and that's what our circulation element has. You know, we have a similar instance east of Highway 65 where there was a proposed major road crossing the river, but there's just residential areas north and south, somewhat similar to here, that it just wouldn't make sense to expend those monies and then create other issues as you drive a lot of traffic through residential zones without a properly sized roadway. But I like that idea of a pedestrian bridge because we are needing to find a transition point for our trail systems, because east of State Route 65, our Tule River Parkway is on the south banks of the Tule River, and west of State Route 65, the trails is on the north side. So Prospect Street may be a good transition point to link the north and south trails sections.
Yeah, and with this master plan, there will be a general plan amendment required, so I'm wondering if cleaning up that circulation element and removing the vehicular access off of Prospect, if that's something we can do with this effort, if the city is open to it, and then we can just make that a pedestrian bicycle Paseo access.
Right. Yeah, so as you can see on that Google map that got popped up, this may be that link to cross the river.
Does the city have any plans for? Is there a bridge there now? Over the river at Prospect?
There is not, no.
Okay, and would that be dependent on development? Would it be like a cost sharing? Or is it like a CIP project?
Yeah, likely a CIP project. Yeah, and then what we've done in other areas is we've designed, since it'd be a major crossing for peds and bikes, there is also quite a bit of activity from emergency vehicles and containing fires and other things that go on there. That it'd be sized to hold a vehicle or load, but no vehicles would be going on it. It's just peds and bikes.
Okay. Or what about, and sorry, I'm just thinking out loud now, on that note, what if we just made that like emergency vehicular access only? So if necessary, because it would hold the vehicular load, emergency vehicles could go over if they needed to, but it wouldn't be like a thoroughfare for regular traffic.
Yeah, I could definitely see that working. We need to make sure that access is restricted properly,
So,
whether by gates or bollards or,
yeah,
I
well,
would,
we don't want to do something that the city doesn't ever do. I'm just thinking of ideas to kind of
Right.
alleviate the concern while protecting the existing residential.
right. Yeah, maybe there's like a bulb on either side and across it only the like fire and PD have access across through there,
Mhm.
like a gate controller or something.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think that we definitely open to that. And maybe in that case that may satisfy that second access point. But let's see, fire didn't make it on.
So Javier, I was thinking maybe it would be good to have both,
Mhm.
just because it will be dependent on if the city has money to install that pedestrian bridge or
Right.
emergency access bridge. So it would be good to also plan for a second point of access somewhere else.
No, that's true. That's true. And in the event we need some time to get funding together. Yeah, no, those are all good ideas.
Javier, this is Brian Ennis. So my understanding is the issue is between Roby and Olive, but does Roby have the capacity to carry enough circulation each direction to get to that point in Prospect where Roby and Prospect meet?
It's just a local road. I think it acts as like a local collector. People get off of Olive to go through there, but we do get frequent complaints that people are speeding and just creating a dangerous situation through that from Roby from Newcomb to Cobb Street. I just, and would if we had a substantial amount of homes backing onto a road, we could make something work. But with everybody fronting, it's difficult to send more traffic through there when we're already getting those types of complaints.
Understood.
and then going back to the proposed circulation, Oscar, if you can. So there's two different concepts here. There's this one, which has proposed street A or proposed A street and Prospect Street, not connecting. Now with the understanding that Prospect wouldn't have vehicular access anyway. And then there's this one, the second conceptual layout where proposed A Street kind of just loops around and mirrors the west side. Does the city have any thoughts or preferences on that? And again, this isn't showing any local roads or local street connections. Just the street that would function as the collectors.
Right. That'd be a good backbone, and again, like you mentioned, there'll be local roads um, extending out of those, with one ultimately providing the path across Prospect with emergency vehicles, as well as a local to Newcomb.
Okay. And then we also understand that there's a roundabout going in
Mhm.
on Westwood, and is that, I think we heard that slated for December of this year, that's correct?
Correct. Late this fall, they'll start. It's about a 7-month construction window. We also have in the works a proposed roundabout at Newcomb and State Route 190. That is several years out, but we are prepping for that.
Matt or Bonnie, Jenna, and Shin, do you have any other questions on circulation?
No, I think it's pretty good on my end. If anything comes up, I'll be sure to reach out.
Perfect.
So just so I have clarification, so that the local street, we just want a second point of access from Newcomb going east. Is it all the way through the site, or sort of like where the Prospect alignment is?
Probably at least to where the proposed A Street loops.
Got
Just
it. Okay.
give a second point in and out. Mhm.
Okay, I don't think I have anything else. Well, are you asking just about the circulation, Kelsey?
Yeah, any other comments or concerns on it? I think we have some good direction and some big questions answered, but if there were any other issues that we could talk through.
I think we have some trails shown, or open space shown on that land use map. It's sort of circulation related. So maybe we can move to that and talk about that trail access. So if Oscar, you go back to the latest land use map. So we have a connection on Newcomb for a trail. And then it runs along state route, the state route right there, running east-west. You guys see that? There's like a green strip.
Right here.
Yep.
Yeah,
So we
Right
wanted to get the city's thoughts on that. We're proposing it sort of as a buffer in that location because we have residential and public facilities there, along with mixed use.
And also going north into the river along Newcomb Street. Yes. I think this is the one along State Route 190 is existing in the general plan, so there's already a buffer. No, it doesn't show on the PDF, I believe.
Yeah, we'll take a look at that and verify, and then, yeah, we'll run that scenario through our team.
Okay, I know it's adjacent to the highway, but it would function kind of just as additional buffer, and we can also send you pictures of other areas that kind of have a trail along a highway with residential uses adjacent to it, if that's helpful.
No, yes, sounds good. Some examples would help visualize that and see how it worked in different jurisdictions.
Great.
Yeah, Oscar, yeah, Shin just sent me the image of the general plan, and yeah, it's the trail is there proposed in the general plan PDF document. So I can, if you let me share my screen, I don't know if it makes a difference if
Sure.
you guys want to see that.
Yeah, we'll share it for the public here. Go ahead.
Okay. Whoops, hold on one second. I need to,
Do you want me to share instead?
yeah, go ahead, Shin. I don't
Okay.
have it downloaded here.
Okay. Can everyone see my screen? Okay. So this section is the plan area right here, this small section, and along this 190 state route is this hatch right here. So that's the landscape buffer. So if I zoom in, here is where we are, and here's the landscape buffer on the south.
No, yeah, it's in the general plan. I think we could run that scenario through our team to make it into a possible trail park / buffer for the rest of the development.
Okay.
Any other major concerns that we want to try and incorporate into the master plan document?
Clayton, I know you joined us shortly. Is there anything that, any comments at this time for any concerns from the fire department based off the proposed circulation for the area?
Yeah, I'm joining a little bit late here, so I'm not sure what you discussed. But is Prospect proposed to cross the river at some point?
Yeah, so right now, hi, this is Kelsey. In the city's general plan, it does have a vehicular access point over Prospect. The issue that we're running into is the Prospect to the north isn't built wide enough to support the additional traffic that would be generated at full build out of this master plan. So we were proposing a couple of different scenarios where Prospect would just be a pedestrian or the bicycle bridge with no vehicular access. That's how we originally kind of proposed the circulation, or not connecting proposed street A with Prospect to break up some of that vehicular access. And then during this meeting, we were kind of talking through things with Javier. And now we're thinking of requiring like a mandatory local street, because this exhibit doesn't show any of the local streets, just the collector. So we would propose a mandatory local street that would have to connect from Newcomb to the Prospect alignment. And the exact area could shift depending on development, but that connection would have to be there. And then even proposing emergency vehicle access at Prospect and the Tule River. So it would still function as the trail and the pedestrian access, but fire and PD would have access over that.
Yeah, so that's my biggest concern is ending up with a single way in and a single way out in the event of an emergency, especially with that much river frontage to be able to get in there, get resources in there and get things out as we need to. So that's just one of the concerns that I had. And then the other is just making sure that any development that goes in there maintains a buffer to the river, just so that we have points of access to get into and around the river when the water's low and the grasses are high. Obviously, it is a threat from fire, and so oftentimes we need to get in there to access fires and get them put out quickly.
Great, thank you. So would an EVA access point alleviate your concerns?
Well, we still need to be able to get across the river at more than one point. I don't
Okay.
want to create an area where proposed street A goes in and loops around. There's only one way in and one way out. We'd like to maintain at least a secondary point of access to cross the river to get into that area or out of it as we need to. But as developments go, whether they're commercial or residential, we want to maintain the ability to access the river. So some of the older subdivisions, they're built with the backs of the houses or the backyards essentially right up against the river. Whereas some of the newer ones, they kind of, you have across the street, then you have some buffer zones with ponding basins and trailways and things like that, that are much easier for us to get in and out of quickly, and also to avoid being trapped. In the event that we go in and fire tries to surround us, we can get back out.
Okay, yeah, I think we were proposing, Oscar, if you can go back to the land use, the river would have like an open space buffer, and we were also playing with the idea of having the residential uses front onto that trail as opposed to backing onto it, just to keep it just to keep eyes on it in general. So if that also helps fire, we're more than happy to write that into the plan as well.
Absolutely, thank you. That's pretty much all I have.
Great, thank you. All right, so Oscar and the city team, did you want to talk about land uses at all? I know there was some concern with the professional office.
How do you feel about that, Jeff?
Or maybe would it be helpful if I kind of just talk through how we got here?
Yeah, let's start with that.
Sure, so the general plan, and from our community workshops and the outreach that we've been doing, there was some commercial on the southeast corner where we have industrial park right now. So we wanted to make sure that we provided ample space for commercial type uses. Industrial park does allow for a lot of commercial uses as well as industrial uses. And it would be really difficult to kind of corner in some of the bigger retail centers on that corner as it is, just with the limited access. So we made that industrial park to make it more of a destination location as opposed to a place you stop out of convenience. And we move the commercial to the hard corner of Westwood and State Route 190, because that would be convenient if, you know, there's a CVS or a Target or what have you right on that corner. People will more easily stop there. Then in terms of the office and the mixed use, it was kind of that same line of thinking. We wanted to get a full variety of uses in this plan that still allowed for flexibility. We didn't want to pigeonhole anything. Mixed use, you can do commercial and you can do residential, and then the professional office district allows for, you know, the obvious professional offices, dental, medical, sales, business, but there's also restaurants allowed and some other service and retail uses that are permitted. And then we also just wanted to plot residential in a way that made sense, but also met kind of the housing target that facilitated this whole idea of the master plan. So we wanted to make sure we hit a certain number of housing units, and we wanted kind of like this 15-minute city concept where no matter where you are, you're very close to any kind of retail or commercial that you would need. So that's what the neighborhood commercial is kind of plotted near all the residential that doesn't have direct access to other commercial zone districts. We also wanted to preserve the river and the floodway and the open space that was originally identified in the general plan. And we also wanted to keep in mind existing parcel lines. We didn't want, especially those smaller parcels along State Route 190, we didn't want to divide them up into several different zone districts and have stuff like streets going through them. We wanted to make sure that they kind of got grouped in one to the extent possible. And I think we did a pretty good job. There are some of the larger parcels have more than one zone district, but the smaller ones, we kept all as one.
No, yeah, I like the concept. We'll run it through the team here. If there's any minor adjustments that we feel should be included, we'll reach out to your team.
Great, thank you.
Is there any other departments that would like to just provide preliminary comments on this proposed master plan? At this time, there's no development being proposed. Michael, would there be any comments related to the project from your department's side?
No, not at this time. I think as we continue to work through this, we'll provide some comments then. There's no clear delineation on a 3-bin trash enclosure, so that's the extent of my conversation. No, I appreciate it. Everything looks great. As we work through this, we'll continue to provide some input on that circulation for services.
Sounds good. Thank you, Michael. Is there any other information or comments that staff or the agent would like to provide? Or if there's any other questions? Yeah.
I actually have one other question, and I don't know if there's anybody on this call who can speak to it, but we're wondering about water and sewer infrastructure and capacities. There seems to be some kind of knowledge during the community workshops that infrastructure did exist in this area.
So that kind of leads to my previous statement. We'll have to work through some of those details. So currently, water infrastructure goes parallel to the river and crossing Highway 65, and then we at 190 there as well. We have sewer and water both in those proximities.
Okay.
Nothing to the west. So as this continues to develop, we'll need to walk through that and see what that master plan infrastructure looks like to serve that area.
Got it.
Oscar, is what,
I'm sorry.
sorry.
No, you're fine. I was just saying, part of that discussion is really kicking off with the extension of Newcomb, going across the river, looping in those services with what Prospect looks like in the future, and then getting utility to the west there in the proximity of Westwood.
Thank you, Michael. Go ahead, Monique.
No, I was gonna ask if we had these layers available. I wasn't sure if we had
Uh,
this information or if this is publicly available or if the
Yes,
city.
yes, it is public information. We have our general information map on our city's website. I could provide you with the link to that. And yes, it's available for the public. It has layers here you could click on, for example, to kind of get an idea where the sewer lines may be or water lines, also for zoning layers, general plan. So yes, this is available for the public, and I can provide you that link.
Yeah, I think we have it. This is just the interactive GIS map, right?
Correct.
Okay, yes.
And does the city have additional information on capacity, or will the city provide comments on what will be required? I'm just trying, we do have a infrastructure component of this master plan that we're working on, and any information that you guys have available would be helpful.
No, of course, if we have, Michael, would you be able to answer that as far as capacity, or current capacity?
So we have some in our current draft master plan, which is under review now and should be circulated here as a accepted document relatively soon. Some of these discussions we just need to have internally. So I would say yes, those comments will be coming to you. We do need to compare the proposed plan to the master plan, and we can provide some of that data based off of that, and it'll probably project forward as well to future capacity enhancements. So one thing that we may need to include, and I would consult with Javier on this as well, is how does that lay out into the master plan or into the addendum to the master plan with this proposed change. So that information will be coming back to you probably in comments from staff, and then we can also share some of that information specifically to your request as it relates to what is being shown here.
So, thank you, Michael. So I'm a little bit just unsure of how like this PRC process works. Do we get like formal comments, or is this kind of the meeting, and the comments that you're referring to is when the project gets submitted and routed for comments?
So yes, so after our PRC meeting, we'll gather all comments from each department based off the project. And then we'll provide those comments and process to the applicant in the letter outlining each department's information based off what was proposed.
Perfect. Thank you. I asked, the reason I ask is I'm sure most of you, if not all of you, are aware that this is on like a very tight deadline, that we're hoping to take this to council in September. So whatever number of meetings, that follow-up meetings or discussions or revisions that we need to get as detailed comments as possible we're completely open to it and we would very much appreciate it just to make sure this stays on track for the city.
Of course.
Thank you.
Thank you. With that, is there any other questions or comments?
What about the scope? Is Matt still on? I saw some emails come through, Matt, from you, and I don't know if the city has responded.
Yes, so I'm still here. The city has not responded to the draft scope of work. We had received comments from the county this morning when I followed up. I haven't really had a good chance to go through and review those fully. And I'm still waiting on Caltrans. They got back to me, but they didn't really give a date in which they would respond by.
So a lot of this project staying on time is sorry, directly related to the traffic study and how quickly we can wrap that up. So if I don't know who you sent the document to, Matt, but is it anyone on this call?
Yeah, sorry. I know I sent it to Javier Sanchez, and I don't know if I believe it's Daniel Cervantes. If he's on this call, but I believe I saw Sanchez.
Yeah, I did get that, Matt. Let me finish review and get a response back to you.
Okay, yeah, sounds good. And then also, if possible, I know we need to kind of talk to TCAG and kind of get them to see if they can kind of expedite this model request that we sent. Because I think that's kind of our critical path right now is the modeling.
Right.
Thank you, Matt, and thank you, Javier. As stated, we'll try to get that information over to you guys in a timely manner. Is there any other questions or comments?
I have none.
Hearing none, again, we'll provide these comments to the team here from every department outlining the project today. And then, yes, we'll continue moving forward with the project. I would like to thank the team here at the city and the public for joining us today. I'm gonna go ahead and end today's project review committee meeting at 2:26 p.m.
Great, thank you
you.
guys.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks.